Hey, it's John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and it's The Entrepreneurial You, the show for dedicated and passionate Caribbean entrepreneurs seeking daily inspiration, brought to you by author, speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur Heneka Watkis-Porter. You must be prepared to ignite.
Hi, this is Heneka. I'm so glad you took the time to stop by today. In Jamaican parlance, Wagwan. I'm glad to say you there. This episode is sponsored by HenekaWatkis-Porter.com as well as the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Now on HenekaWatkis-Porter.com, you can visit us for blogs, resources, books, online podcast courses, podcasts, and more. If you are new to the Entrepreneurial You podcast, be sure to check out past episodes with guests such as John Lee Dumas, Patrice Washington, Seth Godin, Richard Branson, Amy Porterfield, and a host of other game changers.
We needed to raise capital, but our experience with local financial institutions was that they were cautious and slow to act, and interest rates were far too high. We had real concerns about financing our business through outside equity investors and the possibility of interference. Could we get a fair valuation for our business? We had our own ideas about the business and its value. Should I go the traditional route of bank financing, or should I try the Jamaica Stock Exchange? So we made a call and experienced transformation of our business through conversations. I'm John Mafood, CEO of Jamaican Teas, and we're listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Give us a call today at 876-967-3271 to begin your transformation through conversation. We want to see your company listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
And now, here's today's episode. Coming up on this episode of The Entrepreneurial You,
we are busy, but we cannot give to our clients, to our business, to our families, to anyone, to anything from a state of depletion. Like if we are running on empty, we can't do all the things we need to do. So taking care of our own health, taking care of our own nutrition is important, not just for ourselves and our health, but for all the many responsibilities we're constantly juggling.
Magic bullets. You got to eat healthy. Let me say again, because I pronounced that H where it shouldn't be. Sorry, there's no magic bullets. You got to eat healthy and live healthy to be healthy and look healthy. End of story. Morgan Spurlock. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Greetings. It is episode 247 of the Entrepreneurial You podcast. And as you know, if you're not listening for the first time, that I'm your host, Heneka Watkis-Porter. Now, today's episode is with Kate Lyman. Kate is a nutrition coach, founder of Kate Lyman Nutrition, wife, traveler, and lover of the outdoors. Now, Kate helps committed clients make a transformational change using a flexible nutrition approach and creating sustainable healthy habits using evidence-based methods. Now, today, we are going to be looking at navigating your health goals while building financial freedom. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you, Heneka. Thank you for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Before we dive in, as I like to say, I am always big on this tradition where I ask my guests to say something about Jamaica. Tell me something about Jamaica. Now, is there anything that you know about Jamaica?
I would say what I know about Jamaica is that it is on my bucket list of places to travel. I have not been to Jamaica before. I've been in the area. I currently live in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And so I've been to Cuba, I've been to Puerto Rico, I've been to Dominican Republic, kind of all of these areas near Jamaica, but I have not been to Jamaica itself. Mm-hmm. And so it's on the bucket list for me.
Yeah. And pretty soon you're going to take it from the bucket list to the actual been there, done that list, right?
Exactly.
All right. So we are embarking on a journey to discuss a topic that I believe is so fitting in the season, in this time, a topic that, it has become something that everybody's talking about, but at the same time, we need to really move a little from, a little more from just talking to be more intentional about taking care of our health. So as we look at navigating your health goals while building financial freedom, I know that it's relevant because I went through a health scare last year. So I know firsthand about putting your health front and center. But for you, Kate, I'd love to hear a story of when and why did this become important to you?
Yeah. I mean, so I have technically worked in the fitness industry for almost 10 years now. Well, actually, yeah, 10 years now. So I've always been involved in health and fitness and nutrition and all of that. And it was always kind of more like a side gig, like a hobby. And in 2015, I started my nutrition coaching business and started working with clients. And as I've worked with so many different clients from so many backgrounds with so many goals, I've been able to see all sorts of things. And what I do is I help every individual find their own sustainable approach to nutrition for them. But I feel like this overwhelming pattern is that we are busy, busy people, right? We live chaotic lives. We have a lot of responsibilities. We are just going, going, going all of the time. And we're faced with a lot of overwhelm. And if we can allow our nutrition and our health to not be just another stressful thing to worry about or another overwhelming thing to worry about, then we can really find a way for our health and our nutrition to support us in the busy lives we live. And if we're talking to entrepreneurs, like the overwhelm of building a business is very real. I have been there. I am still there. My husband and I are currently building a second business right now. So it never stops, right? Like we are busy, but we cannot give to our clients, to our business, to our families, to anyone, to anything from a state of depletion. Like if we are running on empty, we can't do all the things we need to do. So taking care of our own health, taking care of our own nutrition is important, not just for ourselves and our health, but for all the many responsibilities we're constantly juggling.
We cannot give from an empty cup. And another cliche example I like to use, I mean, it has become cliche, but it has not lost its relevance. And it's when we go on a plane, they tell us, should a difficulty arise, you need to put on your own mask first before you can help somebody else. And that's
Right.
just the fact, right? We cannot give while we're depleted. And so, Kate, the hustle and the grind and the team no sleep that entrepreneurs revel in, right? I know not just entrepreneurs, but everybody in general, but particularly entrepreneurs, because it's a culture, whether we've been taught directly or indirectly, it's a culture that we've grown up in, team no sleep. You have to hustle, you have to grind.
Right.
How much of a disservice that culture has done to us?
So much, so much of a disservice. And I know that I work in nutrition, right? I work in nutrition, which is an extension of people's health. But I will say that there is nothing that I talk about more with clients than stress, right? Because we have work stress and family stress. We have some people not giving themselves enough rest, not enough sleep, or for those who work out, people who are overtraining. We have people who are chronically undereating because you're in that hustle mode and you're grinding every day and you're not eating enough, or people who are so stressed that they emotionally binge, all of this stuff. And stress plays a huge role in our ability to be healthy, right? In our ability to fill our cups so we can help others, so we can build our businesses, so we can support our families, whatever that may look like. And we want to find a way for our health, for our nutrition to be almost a source of stress relief, like a way to give time to ourselves, to treat ourselves well, to prioritize our bodies and its needs rather than just another source of stress, right?
Yeah, you hit a good point. And for me, last year when I fell ill, and after going to so many doctors, and eventually my naturopath diagnosed me with adrenal fatigue, I recognized all of these things that I was facing. It had a lot to do with how I was eating as well. I was depleted. I was totally, totally burnt out, and so on. So I do understand. But what I've been doing now, and I think as you've said earlier, is a good point to share. Making that date with myself. So every single day I have a date with myself when it comes on to I'm eating my breakfast at 7 and I'm having my lunch/dinner at 2 because I do intermittent fasting. Those are the only 2 times I have my meals. And I keep that date with myself every single day. Before, let me tell you what would happen. I would eat whenever I remember to eat or feel like it at some point, or move from that to either just constantly eating something sweet or constantly just eating the wrong things. and I would just go, right? And I would not be having, for me, food was a chore, like trying to eat sometimes was a chore, or I'm on the phone and I'm eating and I'm doing work, that kind of a vibe. So having gone through what I did, part of my own self-care routine is having that date with myself. So one of the things I also want to ask you now, Kate, is you kind of alluded to it a bit, but how is a lack of proper nutrition manifesting itself amongst entrepreneurs right now?
Well, like, I guess improper nutrition can look like a lot of different things, right? It can look like what I said, that chronic under eating, like kind of what you alluded to, just go, forgetting to eat. Or it can look like this really inconsistent, like eating nothing during the week and then binging over the weekend. Or it can look like a lot of emotional overeating. I mean, it looks different for everyone, but the truth is we are not going to be our healthiest selves, and we are not going to be as mentally sharp as we could be. We are not going to perform in both exercise and daily life and recover from that exercise and daily life as well as we could if we're not fueling ourselves in the best way possible. And, the world of nutrition information is absolutely overwhelming. There is so much information overwhelmed. Do this, don't do that, eat this only, never eat this, and it's really hard to navigate all of that. But what's great is that we can kind of cut through all of that information overwhelm and focus on some basics. And when we kind of ignore or silence all of the extreme messages being shared with us and focus on the basics, we are giving ourselves exactly what we need to improve our health, to improve our nutrition, to improve our relationship with food and with our bodies, and without burning out, without feeling awful, without cutting out food groups, without saying we can't have the cultural foods we love to eat, So when we focus on the basics, like we really are empowering ourselves to create really solid habits that serve us so that we can then, like we talked about, go on and serve others, whether that's through our business or families or whatnot.
All right. So you were talking earlier about the noise and how you navigate all of that. And that's something I want to touch on. Perhaps I want that to be my final question. But before we go into anything else, I want you to help me to understand, what in the world does health have to do with financial freedom?
This is a great question, right? I was kind of chatting with my husband about this before. I think it may not be directly related where you can drop a line from point A, being healthy, to point B, financially free. But I think we are not going to be our best selves if we're unhealthy, and we're not going to reach big goals that we may have if our health is not a priority. And that doesn't mean it has to be a priority like, oh, I go to the gym for 2 hours every day and I track all my food and I eat perfectly and yada, yada. But just having habits in place really translates over into reaching goals far beyond just health goals. And the act of creating habits and creating sustainable habits, ones that we can practice through the chaos of life, is something that translates over into financial freedom as well, right? It translates over into building a business, to increasing income, to putting systems in. You're putting systems in place for your health. You're also putting systems in place for your financial freedom, right?
As a matter of fact, this is one point I'd want to disagree with you when you said there you can't find a direct link. I'd love to link it directly because, and here's why, too, Kate. When we look at, for example, my own health situation last year, I was totally burnt out and could have done nothing, like absolutely nothing. What that meant for me was that I could not earn because I had no energy, I had no strength, I had no passion, I had no drive. I totally crashed. Now, at the same time, I had to be finding money to go to all these doctors, right? Spending money on my health, which was depleting any semblance of a work towards financial freedom, right? That I thought I had.
Right.
And so exactly. And so, even now with this awareness and this hindsight, which is 2020, I'm so very aware of how I need to invest going forward, how I need to diversify what I need to be doing. And so it has caused me to become more aware financially, because it is obvious when you don't have the things in place to give you that sense of financial ease, then it adds to the stress. It adds to what you're you're faced with, and then so it's a cycle. You're emotionally unwell, you're mentally unwell, and you're also physically unwell, you know?
That's totally true. So you're right. They are directly linked. They are directly linked. And I guess it's maybe just not one link. It's a bazillion different links. Like you said, it's the mental, it's the emotional, it's the physical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, you kind of alluded to it earlier, Kate, when you talked about, so there's this, don't eat this, don't do that, do this, do that, right? When it comes on to our health, when it comes on to our nutrition. No, for me, I went to a naturopath, and the healing journey has been one that is natural. And when it comes on to food, it involved exercise and so on, sunlight, air, all of these things. When it came on to food, I was given a vegan diet, right? I never knew that I could honor a vegan diet. In fact, I have not been since, I started out being vegan for a couple months. Well, fully vegan. And then now I would say that I'm 90%, 95, 80% vegan, because some days I do have, fish once in a while, or I'll have some dairy products once in a while or something. But from your perspective, what are some of the things that you teach health-wise, nutrition-wise, that will help us to live our best lives now?
So I would say the biggest thing that I teach is that we should be combating perfectionism. And I think a lot of the people who would be listening to your podcast because they are entrepreneurs, because they are working towards financial freedom, they probably are kind of a perfectionist, right? That just kind of brings about this type of person. And being a perfectionist isn't always a bad thing. But when it comes to our health, it can really hurt us because we think, okay, I have to go to the gym every single day or I failed. I have to eat clean. I'm using my air quotes here. I have to eat clean every single day or I failed. And what we're doing is we're setting ourselves up for failure, right? Because life happens and we can't always make it to the gym. We want to enjoy family dinners or meals out or drinks with friends and things like that. So what I teach more than anything is that we should be pursuing flexibility and sustainability over perfection. And like I've alluded to before, that comes down to habits, knowing that everybody's approach is individual to them. Like, what is that sustainable, flexible approach is different to them. Like for you, intermittent fasting works, right? It's sustainable for you. So that's a good approach for you. And for others, I'm like, oh man, I eat dinner at 8 p.m. Maybe that wouldn't be the best for me, and that's okay. But how can we focus on the basic? How can we focus on giving ourselves flexibility and room to mess up or make mistakes or have a different type of funky days if we're not having the best day possible, and start over again the next day and work towards that almost consistency over perfection more than anything. So with my clients, most of them are tracking their food. And that's not something that everyone has to do. We do it because we want to bring awareness about what they're eating and their eating habits. But I think a really great strategy for anyone who wants to just start inching closer towards health and towards making those nutritional habits is setting some non-negotiables for yourself. You call them non-negotiables or minimums. Like, hey, my day may be crazy, but I have a non-negotiable of drinking 2 liters of water a day. I have a non-negotiable of moving 15 minutes a day. Maybe someday that looks like an hour in the gym, and that's great. Maybe someday I'm slammed and it looks like a 15-minute walk to a coffee shop, but I got it done. That's the minimum. I'm going to do it. I have a non-negotiable of getting protein with every single meal. And that could be a plant-based protein. It could be fish. It could be meat, whatever it is. Like, that's just what I'm sticking to today. So even on the days where everything feels messy and hard, we can still stick to those non-negotiables. And then we're not stuck in that all or nothing mentality where it's either like, I'm doing everything perfectly or I suck.
Yeah, for real. Because every day, for real, I feel like I win. And why is that? Coming from a place, as I mentioned earlier, that I just eat whatever, whenever.
Right.
To know sitting down at those particular times for the day when I have my meal and decide I'm not going to answer any phone. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to be, be texting and trying to do work while I'm eating. That for me is a big win. And yes, I have fallen off the wagon, as it were, because when I traveled recently, those times, the breakfast time stayed, but the meal time, the main meal time, that went out the window, and I started eating some things that I would normally eat at times that I would not normally eat. No, that was for 9 days. But when I got back home, I went right back into my routine because that is what I've committed to myself. So you're right. Start with the basics, start with the non-negotiables and build on those,
I think that's a perfect example because there's so many situations where we might go travel for 9 days and then we're kind of out of routine. Things are a little different. We come back home and we're like, well, I already messed up. So let me fall back into my old habits of not eating or just eating junk food or whatever that may look like. But when we have those non-negotiables in place, we do our best given the situation. And then we move on saying like, hey, I hit those non-negotiables today. Move on. Next day, maybe next day will be even better. Maybe it will be even harder, but I have some structure in place to practice those basics so that I am taking care of myself, so that I am capable of reaching financial freedom. I'm capable of growing my business. I'm capable of taking care of others and serving others and, giving more to the world than just feeling crappy and sick and unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. Because when we're sick, crappy, and unhealthy, we're not serving anyone. We're not even serving ourselves,
Right.
First, I tell people it's okay to be selfish. Being selfish at times isn't really selfish. It's actually being selfless because you're protecting your space, you're protecting yourself so that you can be of service to others, which is so vital. We're here to serve other people. And as we live our purpose, as we do the things that we are called here to do, then it must mean that we have, we're protecting our spaces, where health is concerned and all of that. So as you even talk about financial freedom, Kate, what are you even talking about when you mention financial freedom?
For me, this is actually the conversation I was having with my husband before. For me, financial freedom means being in a place where I'm comfortable and I'm able to enjoy life and enjoy my business. I don't think financial freedom for me means not working because I love to work. I love my clients. I love everything I do, but it's being able to have some semblance of balance in my life with being financially comfortable, also being able to take care of myself so that I can then and have an impact on others, be that my clients or a social media audience or whoever that may be. And I think balance kind of gets misconstrued sometimes that balance means everything's perfectly balanced. And that's not always true. It just means we're not totally out of whack.
Mm-hmm. And for my listeners who know me well, they will know that I don't even use the term balance because that's a misnomer. There's not possible. But what I love to talk about is harmony. Everything working in tandem with each other, given the resources, given the time, when you take everything into consideration, when all of the factors are considered, everything is coming together and gelling harmoniously. So that's what we aim for because life is always going to throw our things out of balance as we know it.
Right.
But when we have our health and our nutrition under control, then it helps us, to be that foundation to that we can build on.
I love that. That's even more perfect. I love that term harmony instead of balance because like you said, balance is a misnomer and we're never going to be perfectly in balance, but we can find that harmony between all these different facets of our lives and we can do so while taking care of ourselves too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as we're about to wrap, Kate, I'd love to hear your final thoughts, your encouragement to entrepreneurs, those hustlers and grinders, those who are on team no sleep and they're not eating well and they're not taking care of themselves. What final, word of advice would you give to them?
I would say, I know you're busy. I know you're busy because I feel that and I've been there and I am there. But being busy doesn't have to invalidate any goals that you have. And if we really, really take a step back away from that information overwhelm, away from all the things we think we should be doing and focus on consistency over perfection, focusing on just kind of nailing the bare minimums every day, you are doing more for yourself than if you were to follow a crazy diet or do some elimination or restriction or 30-day hardcore fasting or whatever it may be. You are doing more for yourself by focusing on that consistency over perfection and just mastering the basics.
Well said. Kate Lyman, who of course is a nutrition coach, she's big on transformational change as she advocates for flexible nutrition approach and creating sustainable, healthy habits as she used her evidence-based methods to help, her clients over the years and will continue to do so. Kate, a little birdie, tells me that you have a freebie for our community. So I'd love for you to share that as well as share the places and spaces where our community might be in touch with you.
I do. So my my website is katelymannutrition.com. And on there I have a resources tab. And one of the resources I think is most helpful for anyone, no matter how busy you are, no matter if you like to cook or if you don't like to cook, is a cookbook we have called Everyday Macros. And it just is a really simple way to fuel your body well, to have good foods on hand, to simplify this idea that your nutrition has to be hard, right? Because it doesn't have to be the hardest thing ever. So that's a good place for free resources, specifically recommending that Everyday Macros cookbook. And I also hang out quite a bit on Instagram at KL Nutrition.
Okay. Fantastic stuff. Thank you, Kate Lyman. We continue the dialogue off this recording. We'll continue that as persons engage with the podcast and you provide feedback and so on and so forth. So thank you for spending time with us today. And I do wish you all the best, all the success on your onward journey as you continue to change lives.
Thank you, Heneka.
Absolutely. And thank you, our amazing peak performer, for tuning in to this episode with Kate Lyman. Of course, it's a pleasure. It gives me joy when you connect with me. And I'm looking forward to the next episode that I'll bring with you. But of course, in the meantime, you can connect with me for all things podcasting, whether it's the podcast for a book or it's my coaching or the online courses, whatever you want. You just want to run a business idea by me and you want my feedback, you want my coaching, reach out. Visit HenekaWatkis-Porter.com and you can send me a WhatsApp message directly from the homepage. And you can also find me on social media, Heneka Watkis-Porter, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Of course, the point of hope for this week, dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. 3 John 2. Until next time, please do walk good.